Boy, am I glad I never sold these, considering Bushiroad's reprint logic. Hello and welcome everyone to today's deck profile. I'm going to be taking a look at the Raging Form updated deck from GP29 support. I'm going to show you two builds because I feel like you can take the deck in, well, two different directions. One of which is to focus on the new stride, which is Raging Rapt Dragon, which we'll get into later. So this will be the first one that I show you. But then there's the other one which you can focus on simply just the Raging Form. So just kind of what it used to do, but now that it got some new tools, it makes it even more, kind of easier to get it off on, well, turn 3 optimally. So we're going to go over the stride-based build first. It's not too different, it's literally just like one card difference in my opinion, but we're going to go through it regardless, so let's get right into it. So, first off we have the starter, which is a Judge by Revenger. Now in terms of the starter, it's really up to you. I just took Judge by Revenger because he has the Revenger name, and I might be able to get his effect off every now and then. But his skill is, when an attack hits a Vanguard with a battle that he boosted a unit with Phantom in its name, you can combo +1, put him in the soul. If you do, you search your deck for 2 grade 1 or less Shadow Paladins, call them to separate rearguard circles as rest, and shuffle your deck. So there's another Revenger starter. I play Revengers because I like to be able to retire him if I don't get into the stride turn. So I kind of have two choices. You can play David if you want to go super focused on the stride, which it's perfectly fine if you do, but then you won't be able to retire him for the grade 3 Raging Forms effect because he has to retire Revengers. So I want to have this here because, I'm not always going to be able to do the stride stuff. It's very, I have to get pretty lucky to get all the grade 3s in my hand, but while the, the normal Raging Form effect can still go off even in the more stride-focused decks, so I'm still going to play the Judge by Revenger as my starter, but you can feel free to pick anything else. Now, moving on to the obvious main grade 3, it is Revenger Raging Form Dragon. So this is the old art, I didn't get rid of them, and the reprint is just rare foiling, so I'm glad I didn't. Anyway, his skill is a limit break. At the end of the battle that he attacked, you can retire 3 of your Revengers. If you do, you choose a Raging Form Dragon from your hand, write it as stand, and give your Vanguard +10k until end of turn. His other skill is when he attacks, you can count +1 to give him +3k. So the +3k skill is usually it's pretty irrelevant unless you go first and you're fighting against, your opponent's still on grade 2, and then you can put him up to 14, so it swings for a good number. But generally, it's a pretty, this deck is pretty memey. It's not the most consistent. Obviously, it's much more of a fun deck, but I still have a lot of fun with it. So we obviously play 4 Raging Forms because you need to have Raging Forms in your hand to get a skill off. So that's very important. Now the new grade 3, which helps us get Raging Forms into our hand, is Slay Hex Dragon. So this is a rare from GBT09, and his skill is when you ride him on top of a Revenger, you can count +1 and discard a card from your hand. If you do, you search your deck for a Raging Form, write it as stand, and then choose your Slay Hex Dragon from your soul and put it into your hand. So this actually, when they first revealed this card, it was supposed to have 9k power, but then they bumped it up to 11k, so it's actually very nice. But essentially, when you ride on top of a Revenger, you count +1 and discard 1 to search your deck for a Raging Form, write it on top, and then take the Slay Hexies into your hand. So that way, you want him in your hand because of what the stride does. We'll look into that a bit later. But yeah, it's very important that you get him into your hand, especially in this more stride-based build. But even in the build that doesn't focus so much on Raging Form, he's still a very good card because he gets your Raging Forms a bit more consistently. So, it's count +1, discard 1, but in the end, it's still a very nice card. And now, because we're still going with the stride, we're going to play one more grade 3, which is an Abyss Dragon in its race, so that's pretty important, which is Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss. So first off, he legions with Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss for 20k, and then his other skill is, during the turn that this unit legioned, at the end of the battle you attack the Vanguard, you can count +2 and retire 3 of your Revengers. If you do, you stand him, and the ability cannot be used for the rest of that turn. His other skill is when he attacks the Vanguard, he gets +2k until end of that battle. So we don't really go into him until we need to basically, legion back some cards, but he's essentially just here because he is an Abyss Dragon, and that's going to help us with our stride, which we're going to go into later. But yeah, so that's the important part of that, so we just play him here for that reason. Next up, we play 3 of his mates, which are Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss. Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss's skill is when you call him, if your Vanguard's a Revenger, you can count +1. If you do, you retire one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards. So, very nice card. It's always going to be good in any Revenger deck because it's just count +1 to pop a back row. So, I really like him. I've always liked him. And yeah, but we play 3 because we play the 9th grade 3. So yeah, well, you would play 3 regardless. It's actually the grade 1 count that we lose because of the 9th grade 3. But yeah, so he's a good card, but I think he's pretty good at 3 as well. Next up, we have the really good grade 2, starting with Wily Revenger Mana. Her skill is when you ride her or call her, if your Vanguard is a Shadow Paladin, you can search your deck for a grade 1 or less Revenger in its card name, call to reverse circle in the same column as this unit, shuffle your deck, and at the end of that turn, put that unit on the bottom of your deck. So when you call her, you call out a grade 1 or less behind her, and then at the end of turn you put it on the bottom of your deck, unless you retire it that turn, in which case it just stays in the drop zone. So it's very good because it also combos pretty well with one of the new grade 1s that GB209 gave us. So I really like her, and she's really important because she gives you a free call for no counterblast or anything, which you can use to retire, so it's very good for that. And next up we have the final grade 2, which is Revenger Dark Blast Angel. Her skill is, when she's put into the drop zone from your guard circle for the cost of your unit's ability, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 Revenger, grade 3 or greater Revenger, you can count +1. If you do, you search your deck for a grade 1 card with Revenger in its name, call to your guard circle, shuffle your deck, and at the end of that turn, retire the unit call with this effect. So you use her, like I've explained this in the past, but she's used to get like a triple Raging Form turn, because when you retire her, she essentially calls back a grade 1 so you don't lose your total, and she also helps you do the full combo of Raging Rapt as well. So it's pretty important for that, but yeah, she's a very important card. The one counterblast does, you know, cost, obviously, but it's not too great. And then moving into the grade 1s, we have the new one, which is Detecting Revenger Aife. So I was a bit skeptical about her at first because 6k power and an RNG based skill, but in the end she's actually quite nice. So she has an act where you can rest her, you reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and then if you find a Raging Form Dragon from among them, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. But if you don't find a Revenger Raging Form Dragon from among them, you give one of your other units plus 2k. So what you often do is just call the mana, call this behind, rest her till you get top 5. If you get something, then cool, you got a Raging Form. If not, then you can give her the +2 that she can attack for 10. So generally she's actually a pretty good card because she also, like, if you get, you know, if you don't have a grade 3 and you call out her with a mana, then she might actually get you your grade 3 that you might, you know, helps you prevent being great stuck. Of course it's just a top 5 search, but she's actually pretty nice, and you can keep, well, I mean, especially if you like hold mana in early game and you're not going to retire the IFS, like you can call her, do this, and then end of turn she goes to bottom deck, and then if you call another mana, then you can just call her back again and do her skill again. So it's actually pretty nice, and I do quite like her. So, but she's just a 2-off because I don't have space for her anymore. But yeah, so that's the new grade 1, which is Aife. And moving on to some of the older ones, first we have Tempting Revenger Finnegas, so he's the Limit Break 4 remover. This is important because Raging Form has Limit Break and so does Raging Rapt, which is our main stride. And then we have Revenger Vigor Maur. So we play 3 of him, and his skill is when you call him, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Revenger, you can count +1. If you do, you choose a card on your Vanguard circle, and you search your deck for one card with the same card name as that card, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you just use this to, like, when you're on Raging Form, you call this, count +1, search for another Raging Form, and then, you know, it's just for that. But what you can also do is, like, if you go into the Slay Hex, and for whatever reason, you don't, like, let's say you've actually used up all your Raging Forms, and then you're ready to Slay Hex, and, like, you can't search another Raging Form, but you can stay on him, like, use the Maur to search out another Slay Hex, and then you'll have a bit more, you know, you'll have a chance to still use him again in case you haven't maximized him already. So just kind of there for that, but I had to put him down to 3 in order to have the 9th grade 3. And then the final grade 1 that we have is the Revenger Perfiguard. Revenger Perfiguard because I can call him out with mana and retire him for Raging Form's effect, so it's really just there for that. But you can change them if you want. Like, I do have the Inflipping ones, but I just prefer not to have it in this one. So yeah, that's about it for that. And then as for triggers, we have 8 crit, so pretty self-explanatory. You could play 12, but I prefer not to. Just for this one, I prefer not to. Then we have the 4 heals, pretty self-explanatory. And then 4 draws. Draws because 1 helps me get my Raging Forms and Slay Hexies. And then also because I can call them with mana and I'm not losing too much shield value by retiring them, because mana can call grade 1 or less. So it's kind of just there for that. And so yeah, it's basically just to be called, and they have Revenger in their name, so it's just there for that. So that's our main deck. So now I'm going to show you first the G-Zone, and then I'll show you just a little altered build with which focuses more on Raging Form Dragon himself rather than Raging Rapt. Alright, so taking a look at the G-Zone, first off we're obviously going to have the main stride of the deck, which is True Revenger Raging Rapt Dragon. So his skill is a Limit Break 4. At the end of the battle that he attacked, if your heart is a Raging, then on Limit Break 4 you can count +1, Soul Blast 1, and discard 2 Abyss Dragons from your hand and retire 2 of your rear guards. So they don't have to be Revenger, you can retire any of your 2 rear guards. If you do, you put him face up in your G-Zone and choose a face down True Revenger Raging Rapt Dragon from your G-Zone, stride it as stand, and he gets -1 drive check. So essentially, what I can quickly just show you the combo that like allows you to do him, well, to your full extent. So essentially how it works is that you'll have your first stride, and it's not on GB1 or anything, or well, it's not on GB2 or GB3, so I can do it immediately. So what you would be doing is, for example, attacking with this column, So like then you can hit, you cannot hit, doesn't really matter. And then you attack with this, and then like you'll do your drive checks, whatnot, you know, you'll get your 3 drive checks, and now I still have the deck stacked from deck profile mode, but what's most important is that you have, for this combo, either 6 grade 3s at the start, or you get the 6 grade 3s while you're drive checking. So let's say you get them, so then at the end of the battle, you counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, retire 2, and then also discard 2 of your Abyss Dragons. So Slay Hex is an Abyss Dragon, so you discard him. He goes face up to the G-Zone, and then you choose a face down Raging Rapt and stride him a stand, and then you only have 2 drive checks left. So then you're gonna attack with this column, so that's gonna be like 16 or, you know, whatever from triggers, and then you're gonna attack with this Slay Raging Rapt again, so that's gonna be 26. You get your 2 drive checks, you know, whatever, like you can just keep them on top. You know, what's most important is that you have your Abyss Dragons in hand, and then at the end of that battle, you're gonna counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and then you're gonna retire your 2 rear guards, or you can even retire these 2 just to be a bit more safe, so you have your Limit Break Remover on there at all times just in case you heal out of it. And then you're gonna drop your 2 Abyss Dragons, so you can do Slay Hex and Fight and Blast your Abyss. And then he's gonna go face up to the G-Zone, and then you choose a face down Raging Rapt, stride him, and then from the effect of Dark Bless that was just retired, so her effect comes in, and you can counterblast 1 to search your deck for a grade 1. So let's say you can do the Finnegas, it doesn't really matter too much. And then you're going to shuffle, obviously. And then, you know, you're going to attack for 26 again, do your, you know, 2 drive checks. And then after that, you're going to counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 again. And then you're going to drop your 2 Abyss Dragons, retire 2 of these. And then the Raging Rapt goes back to G-Zone once again. And then you get your final Raging Rapt, and then again, you know, attack for 26, drive check twice, that kind of thing. So that's the full combo where you get Raging Rapt off every single time, but you have to have the 6 Abyss Dragon grade 3s in your hand. So it is very specific, but if you can get the combo off, it's very, very threatening, and you're pretty much going to win on that turn. So yeah, that's the Raging Rapt combo that I just explained. And then obviously we're going to play the 4 Dark Dragon Final Blast for Diablo, because we're not Kazuma and we know what a good card is. So his skill is, if you don't know already, in Act once per turn you can counterblast 1 and Persona Flip. If you have 2 or more face-up units, then he gets a plus 10k and a crit. And then he gets the skill that when he attacks a Vanguard, you can retire 3 of your rear guards. If you do, your opponent chooses 2 of their rear guards and retires them. If they don't, then they cannot guard from hand. So this is, you know, like you're probably already aware of this stride because it's that tremendous. It's just a legend deck stride that I'm pretty sure most people have already encountered at least once, if not a million times. So he's important with playing him as 4, because once you run out of steam with your whole raging combo, then you can just go into him and try to seal off the game from there. So yeah. And then we play the 2 Aura-Geyser Dragons. Aura-Geyser Dragon's skill is when he attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, flip a Aura-Geyser Dragon in your G-Zone face up and retire 2 of your rear guards. If you do, you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, then he gets plus 5k for each grade 1 or less card that you revealed, and then you put the revealed cards with this effect into your hand. So pretty, yeah, it's all going to be a solid stride. It's also getting a reprint really soon, so look out for that in Revival Collection. But I played 2 of him because he's always going to be solid, and you don't really use Soul too much. Like, I mean, you use Soul for him, but, you know, with, like, if you don't use him, then you're going to have a lot of Soul left from doing the Raging Form grade 3 combo, so you can always use it for Aura-Geyser, so it's pretty nice in that regard. So then, our final stride, like, I put in Spectral Blaster Diablo because, like, it's just like you have 1 space, and then, like, it's pretty flex. Like, you could put in a Damned if you want, or then you can take out 1 G-Guard to have, you know, 1 more Aura-Geyser and 1 more Doomed. So it's up to you, but let's go over Spectral Blaster Diablo first. So his skill is a once per turn Soul Blast 1, flip any unit face up, and then retire 1 of your rear guards. Until end of turn, he gets the skill. Once per turn, GB3. At the end of the battle, he attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 2 and retire 2 of your rear guards. If you do, you stand him and he loses 2 drive checks. And then if your heart's a Diablo, you can search your deck for a grade 1 card, call it to rear guard circle, and shuffle your deck. But that part doesn't matter because we don't play Diablo in this deck. This is just there for like a backup restand if you know, need it in case your whole deck isn't restanding enough. But yeah, so like he's just a flex spot. Like you're pretty much never going to go into him. You either try to win the game through Raging Rapt, or then you try to seal it off with Phantom Blaster Diablo. If you don't, then you're probably lost already because the deck runs out of steam pretty fast. fast. So now, for the G-Guards, we're going to go over the new one first, which is Dark Dragon Plotmaker Dragon. So his skill is pretty simple, just Ritual 3, he gets plus 10k shield. So Ritual 3 just means when you have 3 or more grade 1s in your drop zone, and you get them pretty fast with this deck because you're always retiring them. So, you know, like, it's going to be pretty easy to fulfill his condition, even as like a first G-Guard. So, you know, he's really good. I played 2 of him because I kind of want to play other G-Guards as well. We have 1 Ludwig just in case. So his skill is when you guard with him, you choose one of your grade 1 or less rear guards and move it to your guarding circle. So he adds shield value like that. Really not that good, but I just play 1 of him just for the hell of it, honestly. And then we have the 1 Light Element Aglium. So this is one of the Cray Elemental ones. When you guard with her, you can discard a card from your hand. If you do, you draw 1. This is good because it helps you filter through your deck to find your Abyss Dragon grade 3s. Honestly, you could take out a Ludwig and just play 2 of her if you have to, like I do, but I wanted to make this a bit more relatable to everyone, so I just play 1. And then the final one that we have is Dark Element Dismal. So skill is, she has resist, and then when you guard with her, you can choose one of your rear guards until end of turn. That unit cannot be hit and cannot be chosen by the effects of your opponent's cards. So Dismal's good because it's like, it's there to counter, you know, grade 1 Laurel, it's there to counter VMAX and a lot of stuff, so it's literally just there as a meta call type of thing. But you're mostly going to be using Plotmaker or Aglium. So, but generally, like, you don't G-Guard that much because you want to win super fast with this deck, so like you're trying to win in like 5 to 10 minutes, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's this G-Zone lineups. Now let's quickly take a look at the main deck build, which would focus on the grade 3 Raging Form. Alright, so here is the slightly changed build. So all you can see is that we took out the 9th grade 3 to include 1 more Maur, because that way we're searching out for Raging Forms even more consistently. So the whole point of this variation is just to get the 4 Raging Forms as fast as possible, and then on turn 3 have your big explosive turn. So the field can be anything you really want, except it has to have 1 Dark Plus on it, because then essentially, like, you're nuking 3, getting back 1, and then nuking 3, and then, you know, you get your 3 attacks. So that's all you really want to do, because then you usually win the game by then, because it's just too much. And especially if you go first with this deck and get that combo off, it's going to be even more threatening, because, like, 1, the opponent can't even G-Guard yet because they're on grade 2 still, and then you can use his Counterblast 1 to give him 3k to hit for 24 sometimes. That's even harder for them to guard. So if you go first and you get this combo off on turn 3, then you pretty much win. But if you don't get the right pieces, you don't get the 4 Raging Forms, and you don't get the 1 Dark Blast Angel, then it's going to be a bit scary. And also, most of the time you're going to need the 1 Finnegas to remove your Limit Break, because, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious why you would need him, because otherwise you won't be able to use Raging Form. So that's pretty much it. The G-Zone is going to stay the same, because then at least you have a backup to go into in case things don't work out. Like, you're not going to get off Raging Rapt as consistently, but then at least you can do it once, and then that's already something, because you get 5 drive checks, and you do get you know, the pressure of it. But that's pretty much it. So this is the other variation of the deck build. So I hope it does help, and I hope because I had a lot of people asking me about this deck and like how to build it and what I'm planning to do with it. So this is my deck profile, and then so this is the one that focuses on the grade 3, and the one you saw previously is the one that focuses more on the Raging Rapt Stride. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.